world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
Not sure how to tackle your taxes? Are you sweating the small print? You may be experiencing FOMO, the fear of messing up. The answer? Using TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They help you get your biggest refund, and then we help you do more with it, with a personalized plan designed to help you hit your money goals. It's time to take your taxes to the max. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney+.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
Gary the Snake.
And your last name?
The Snake.
Dream Team. New habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home. Zootopia 2, now available on Disney+, rated PG. And right now you can get Disney Plus and Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 3 months with a special limited time offer. Ends March 24th. After 3 months, plan auto-renews at $12.99 a month. Terms apply.
Nothing brings people together quite like Team USA at the Olympic Winter Games. From NBC Universal's iconic storytelling to the innovative technology across Xfinity and Peacock, Comcast brings the Olympic Games home to America, sharing every moment with millions. When Team USA steps onto the world stage, people aren't just watching, they're cheering together. This winter, everyone is all on the same team. Comcast, proud partner of Team USA.
Welcome to Cap Class on the Pinpool Network. I'm your host, Shane Gorson, joined by the resident cap nerd and my co-host, Jim Conklin. We are here to bring you what the people want. Salary cap and contract lessons with a Philadelphia Eagles emphasis.
Hey there, Shane.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. So today in class, we're going to be discussing a couple different things, kind of combining a little bit together, but it's mostly all under one main content. We're going to do a little bit of myth busting specifically today regarding A.J. Brown's situation and how likely a trade may be. In order to do that really effectively, though, we're going to have to talk a little bit about the team's cap space and do a little myth busting there as well. So first, for those watching,
look upon my glorious creation.
For any of those who are able to watch this, you're going to want to see this lovely little image that Shane put together for some A.J. Brown Mythbusters. Shane, do you want to also give us some of these details on like the basics of A.J. Brown's situation?
Let's break it down. There's a lot to go over, but I'll try to keep it short. More or less, he's due about $113 million in cash over the next 4 seasons, about $28.25 million a year, and this is going to have him under contract until he is 32, and I think that is a very important number to remember.
Yeah, I mean, this is, real quick to cut you off, this is not like a holding out is not an option for A.J. Brown. I mean, unless he wants to throw away enormous amounts of money for an enormous amount of time. It's not like he can really hold out in this situation under contract for 4 years.
Yeah, so, and kind of going into that, we have had nonstop, honestly, trade rumors since the beginning of last year, and just drama. He supposedly or reportedly asked for a trade in the middle of the season. He was clearly not happy with his usage. We could see that on the sideline clear as day, and the rumors have just kind of continued. We have the Patriots, the Rams, and maybe the Chargers. I'm going to say they're an outside shot looking in. But those are the three teams that I have seen in contention for trading A.J. Brown. The obvious one is the Patriots. And this offseason has done nothing but to strengthen his tie to the Patriots. As we all know, current Patriot coach Mike Vrabel was the coach that drafted him in Tennessee. And he played the first 3 years or so, I think, 3-4, under Vrabel. And they hated each other at first, but he has grown to very much respect them. Not only that, he appeared on the Julian Edelman podcast this offseason, and it was the wink that was heard around the world. To continue it, just what I just learned today is he's been working out with Kevin Byard, former Eagle, current Patriot. So that's kind of a tough one. Amidst all of this, Howie is playing hardball. Supposedly is looking for a first and a second round pick. And there's some precedent to that, with Waddle being traded for a first, a third, and a fourth. So I think this only strengthens Howie's case for getting the draft capital that he wants back. But all of this, what we're about to break down, hinges on a very complicated contract that makes trading him tricky. And let's break into that, because that's the subject of today's episode.
Sure. So to cover a couple quick basics, right? His current salary cap hit is $23.39 million. His cap hit, if he's traded before June 1st, will be $43.515 million. So we have a net loss there of $21 million. $20.1 million. His cap hit, if he were traded after June 1st, would be $16.35 million in 2026, with another 27 and change in 2027. So obviously, after June 1st, you have a much more reasonable. You actually gain $7 million in cap space if we do it after June 1st, but would lose over $20 million if we did it before June 1st. But having to do with all that, our first myth that we want to approach, right? Kind of see it all over the place. This myth, or this statement that the Eagles have over $30 million in cap space available for use. And when we mean see it all over the place, Shane did a little sleuthing for us. We mean see it all over the place. We can see various Eagles reporters and radio stations talking about how we have all sorts of cap space to trade A.J. Brown before June 1st, or how we have way over $30 million in cap space. And we have cap websites like Over the Cap and Spot Track who are saying that we have over $30 million in cap space. So there's a lot of information.
All of that
Go ahead.
Is technically true, except I think one of the tweets on here is very not true. But all of this is just kind of misleading. It's leaving out important context, and it's very frustrating. Like, yeah, Howie's good at what he does, but when we have tweets where we have the little eye emoji, the goat emoji, and we're highlighting the cap, and it seems to insinuate that like something big's coming, like we can maybe make this trade before June 1st. Like it's frustrating.
Yep. You bring up a good point about, these types of things being technically correct, because, you and I here are about to take some swings, and it's important to note that, we're not necessarily claiming that this is just flat out false information, right? These are valuable sources. These are sources that I use, that you use. They are not wholly incorrect. In fact, they might not be incorrect at all. But as you mentioned, they are lacking some context. And the problem is when this information just immediately gets dumped into the laps of people who, might just be more casual fans or aren't salary cap nerds. They take it. And, you hear, hey, we lose $20 million when we trade A.J. Brown, but we have $35 million in cap space. Sounds like we can trade A.J. Brown, no problem, right? And when these various sources report like that and leave context out, it leads people to assume things, or it leads to interpretations that may not actually be correct. So that's what we're going to break down a little bit here. So, myth number one, the Eagles have over $30 million in cap space available for use. Couple things that are missing from those types of numbers. First off, draft pick salaries are almost never included in that. And they will obviously eventually exist and eventually count against the cap. It depends on the source that you look for it. It's hard to know exactly, but about $3.8 million net would come off of our available space based on draft pick salaries. The actual salaries will be somewhere around $13 million total when you add them all up. But obviously because of like the top 51 rule, or top 53, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, for every one of those players that you add, you remove a contract gets bumped off of the calculation for the top 53 highest contracts. So the net winds up being close to $4 million in cap space that comes off based on draft picks. Then, what almost no source ever bothers to factor in, practice squad salaries. The Eagles spent about $4 million last year on their practice squad. They honestly could spend more just due to inflation this year, but, I kind of conservatively am going to stick $4 million as an expense for the practice squad. It's not like the Eagles are just going to decide not to have a practice squad this year, so there's going to be money spent there. No one bothers to count that, but it's going to count, so you need to account for that kind of thing. In addition, top 53 versus top 51. The top 51 rule says that in the off season, only the 51 highest value contracts count against your salary cap. And that is totally true, and that's totally accurate. And all these websites and all these sources are taking that into account. And that's great and wonderful and accurate, except eventually it becomes the top 53, right? That's an off-season rule to allow teams for like fluctuating players around and, eventual cuts to happen and that kind of stuff. But eventually you have to pay for those other two players. So it's not like you can just never, ever account for them. So I have, as a salary cap nerd, I have some spreadsheets. And after accounting for all of these types of things, I have us at $22.75 million in cap space. And you can kind of, if you're a watcher, you can see the breakdown over on the right-hand side there. It's a very different number than the $30+ million numbers that get thrown around. So
it paints a little bit of a different picture.
It does. And so in that way, Mythbusters.
Love it.
Again, these sources aren't technically incorrect. The Eagles do actually, on paper, right now have over $30 million in cap space. But all of these expenses that a lot of people aren't expecting, aren't accounting for, aren't keeping in mind when they're making wild statements about A.J. Brown and such, aren't in those numbers, and they should be in order to have an effective conversation about this. So, myth busted. Let's move on. Shane, tell us about myth number 2.
The Eagles can indeed trade A.J. Brown before June 1st, or before the draft.
This is the real meat and potatoes of what we're going to be talking about here.
It's why we're here, ladies and gentlemen.
Why we're here. So let's talk about myth number 2. And it relies on myth number 1. There was a reason, of course, we had to talk about myth number 1 first, right? If we take my number from myth number 1, the whole 22.75 million in actual usable space left, after trading away A.J. Brown, we would have $501, talk about specific, dollars remaining in cap space. And that even gets into the minutia of once A.J. Brown is off the top 53 players, I like to count 53 rather than 51, a new player, and it was Munden, gets added to the top 53. So this number is including Munden being added into the top 53 contracts being calculated. That's the amount of space that would be left over. And someone might immediately say, well, cool, that means we'd have space left over. But if we're trading him before June 1st, we're hypothetically doing that to gain a first-round pick, and maybe more than that, right? Well, the cap space lost from gaining an additional first-round pick would be about $2 million. Once again, the actual contract would be a near $3 million, but one player making Munden in that case, or actually somebody after Munden, would get pushed off of the top 53, right? So that's another $2 million that would be taken up. So immediately then we're actually over the cap by like $500,000. And in addition, that is not factoring in one more big thing that I didn't even include in the earlier myth. And that is when players go on injured reserve, which happens every year, of course, right? Anytime a player is on injured reserve, their cap still counts. And whatever player gets added to the roster to replace them, their cap still counts. So if one of the players who would be on the Eagles' top 53 contracts gets hurt and then has to be replaced by somebody even making league minimum or around there, $1 million, that's another $1 million that in cap space that we're going to eat up by that additional player that it has to be counted. Howie Roseman is not going to walk into the season with $500,000. He's going to want millions. I'd say at least 4 or 5 million in available space to replace any players who might wind up on injured reserve. Notoriously, it's a story that I, especially as an Eagles fan, love. In the last year that the Giants had their GM, Dave Gettleman, as the GM, in the very last week of the season, they had a player, I don't remember who, go on IR, and they did not have the cap space available to promote a player to replace that person. So they wound up playing their final year of the season with 52 guys on the roster, which I just find hilarious. Their season was over anyway. It was a losing season. They weren't going anywhere, so it didn't matter, but still kind of funny. Howie Roseman's not going to make that error. He's going to leave cap space available to replace players who get hurt. So that's another $4 or $5 million in space that has to be accounted for. So if we were to trade A.J. Brown before June 1st, I would say that we would currently wind up about $5.5 million short. Now, again, we might not technically be over the cap by that much, but Howie wants to have $4 or $5 million in free space for injured reserve. Now, we can restructure Andy Dalton, Moro Ojomo, Tyler Steen, Nolan Smith, and maybe create somewhere around $7 million in cap space, and that would technically have us back to maybe $1.5 million remaining after an A.J. Brown trade. So I would say this myth is plausible. Maybe A.J. Brown could mathematically possibly be traded before June 1st, but man, that is a really, really thin line that Howie Roseman would be walking. If a noteworthy player gets hurt and we want to trade for somebody who's actually any good and costs more than league minimum, you might not have the cap space for that. If somebody gets cut or put on waivers and Howie really wants to go after that player, but his salary would be more than league minimum, might not be able to do that. And we're not even accounting for this. All my numbers currently don't have Fred Johnson's contract. It doesn't have Elijah Moore's contract, and it doesn't have JT Gray's contract. I don't know that those are much more than minimum contracts, but if they are, we're going to have even less space. So it's technically possible, but man, I think it's really unlikely that this happens before June 1st. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted you to finish your thought because I clearly don't know how to use Riverside, and I think we are indeed live right now. Cool. But we're like almost done the episode, so we might as well just finish.
Let's do it.
I looked up. I was like, that's 5 people.
Well, hi there, 5 people.
Hi, how's everyone doing? So now that we're done this whole myth section, I think we've really kind of cleared everything up. It becomes, when you look at the money, you kind of really see where all of this is leading. So let's do a little bit of a pop quiz, huh?
All right, sounds good.
So, what are the financial impacts of trading A.J. Brown before and after June 1st?
Because his future dead money is going to accelerate, right? When if he's traded before June 1st, it's going to cost $43.5 million in dead cap, which means we lose over $20 million in cap space. If we trade him after June 1st, that spreads out over 2026 and 2027, $16 million in 26 and a little over $27 million in 2027. That's the financial impact of before versus after.
So when reporters and sources say that the Eagles have over $30 million in cap space. Is that true?
Technically, yes. Realistically, no. As we mentioned, those numbers do not include draft pick salaries. They don't include practice squad salaries. They don't include top 53 player considerations, which eventually we have to pay for. After you factor those things in, like I said, I have us at $22.75 million in cap space, much different than the 30+ million that a lot of other sources have.
You know you need fiber for a healthy gut, but do you actually know how to get it? Quaker's been serving up fiber since 1877, with over 100 great-tasting, good source of fiber options to choose from. Whether you like old-fashioned oats, instant oatmeal, granola, or oatmeal squares, Quaker makes it delicious. So good. Get your fiber with Quaker. Shop Quaker's good source of fiber products at a store near you.
This episode is brought to you by Alexa Plus. Say hello to Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do more for you. Need tickets to that last-minute show? Craving your favorite restaurant? Sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. Alexa learns your preferences to create a personalized experience. And now, Alexa Plus is free with Prime on your Amazon devices, like Echo and Fire TV. Learn more at amazon.com/Alexa Plus.
Your favorite local grocery stores like Kroger, Ralph's, Fred Meyer, and more are now delivering on Uber Eats. Get 40% off your order of fresh, quality ingredients. Whether you just got home to an empty fridge or suddenly got a craving to whip up something new, you can get everything you need delivered in as little as 25 minutes. Get 40% off your order with code Kroger2026. Plus, members get $0 delivery fees. Order now on Uber Eats. Orders of $30 or more save up to $25 and $4.30.26. See app for details.
Refreshing wild cherry cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Listening to this podcast? Smart move. Being financially savvy? Smart move. Another smart move? Having State Farm help you create a competitive price when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling. Just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
So, with that number in mind, can the Eagles trade A.J. Brown before June 1st?
Is it mathematically possible? Yes. Is it likely? I'd say no. We would have under $1 million in cap space remaining after doing so, or right around $1 million in cap space remaining. And there's just no way Howie is going to do that, especially because he has to reserve space for replacing players that are on injured reserve. Maybe you could create that space by doing a few restructures to free up, and that would maybe make it possible to do this. But again, he'd be walking a razor's edge, and I just don't think Howie Roseman is going to go into the season with that little cap space available. In the like break in case of emergency type of cap space, he would have almost none. So I very much doubt it.
So now that we've gone over all of that, what do we think? What do we think is going to happen? For me, I personally think he's going to get traded post June 1st. I think that there's too many signs and there's too much drama. You know, on one hand, he says that he wants to stay. He says that he loves it here, but then he'll post cryptic messages and he'll have these sideline stuff. And like, I do think that there is a level of the media, the Philadelphia media, absolutely playing into some things and blowing certain things out of proportion. I think that was a big thing that happened last year, personally. But what was disappointing to me is we had so many distractions the previous year, and we won the whole goddamn thing. And then we come back the next year, and the distractions are still there, and the play is not. So it's I don't want someone to be here who isn't here. So like that's tough. So.
Yeah, I'm also generally kind of split on it. I'm split on the will it happen, except for before June 1st thing. I'm not very split on that. But the overall will it happen, I'm somewhat split. And the overall should it happen, I'm somewhat split. I'm usually a pretty opinionated guy, but I struggle with this one. I think if AJ desperately wanted to get out, there were things that he could do in order to do that, right? I mean, this is definitely not a Myles Garrett situation where he's come out and in no uncertain terms said, I do not intend to play for the Eagles any longer. So if like he really, really wanted to force his way out, he's doing a kind of crummy job of that. Now, again, maybe he's kind of in cahoots with Howie, and Howie's told him, hey, the only way we're trading you is with a great deal. And if you take away my leverage, I'm not going to get a great deal and we're going to keep you. So like that's entirely possible. But still, it would be odd for AJ to be going around and talking about how much he loves being, how much he enjoys being here and that kind of stuff. If his intention was to get traded. And I also think, on the, my own personal thoughts on it, I think there are certainly advantages to keeping him. I think if we trade him, wide receiver immediately becomes one of the top needs that we have, and we have plenty of other needs as well. And he may have taken he may have lost a step here and there. I think last year was certainly not his best year, but I still don't think you just replace him immediately like that, even with a high draft pick. It's so rare that draft picks can come into the NFL and immediately replace star players.
Yeah, and in my opinion, he is one of the best wideouts that has ever graced the Eagles jersey.
Yeah,
like he's had longevity. All of his years here have been impressive. Even last year, I know it didn't start out strong, but the numbers he had strong statistical numbers to finish the season. So
yep.
Yeah.
And I also think, I think we all can guess why he may have been upset during season, right? The report came out that during the season he was requesting trades. Well, what was happening during the season? The Eagles offense was sucking. The scheme was god awful. Coaching was poor. Play calling was poor. And what has changed so much, in the off season? The coaching, right? We have entirely replaced the offensive coordinator. Even the head coach has been somewhat neutered. I'm not going to say that Sirianni's been kicked to the side, but man, we brought in an awful lot of offensive minds who all come from places other than Nick Sirianni's friend group. Yeah. So it certainly seems like he's taking a little bit of a back seat when it comes to this offense. So if AJ's concerns truly were just the on-field struggles, the team has done what is necessary to address that, at least in my estimation here. So at the same time, it's a little risky to keep him. There's big money this year, right? He's due a lot of money in 2026, and trading him could get you out of that. He's due less money in 2027, $21 million, which is 18th most among all wide receivers, which is not a big amount of money. But still, this is a big financial commitment. So if you really do believe, if you've seen tape and believe that he has kind of fallen off the cliff or is going to, maybe you decide to make this trade. It's a tough call. But what I would say is that doing it before June 1st, pretty unlikely.
I would say near impossible.
Yeah. So that's my thoughts.
That has been this episode of Cap Class. Thank you so much for attending. I didn't know we were live. Thank you so much for the people who hopped in while we were recording this. Be sure to check the full episode. We'll probably have that uploaded either later today or tomorrow. But yeah, consider subscribing to the Eagles Film Room Patreon to gain access to more great Eagles content. For Jim Conklin, I'm Shane Gorson. See you next class.
See you.